Mount Rushmore is surely more famous, but this is bigger. 190 feet wide, 90 feet tall, Robert E. Lee is as tall as a 9-story building. Jefferson Davis's thumb is the size of a sofa. Stonewall Jackson is here too, because this is the world's largest Confederate monument.
We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal and endowed with certain inalienable rights. This carvers on Stone Mountain said, no, not black people.
At 100 Robert E. Lee Boulevard in the shadow of Atlanta is Georgia's most visited tourist attraction. This massive Confederate carving was not made in Civil War days, nope. It wasn't finished until 1972, and didn't really start taking shape until 1954 when the Supreme Court handed down Brown v. Board of Education.
And there was huge Southern backlash to that because how dare the Supreme Court tell the South that your schools have to be integrated now. And that led to a new wave of Confederate monuments going up throughout the South.
Seth Levi is with the Southern Poverty Law Center, a nonprofit civil rights organization, and he met me at the park to walk me through the past of a place that I hadn't been since I was a kid. I am at Stone Mountain in the middle of the day on a weekday, but on a summertime weekend night, this place is packed with people bringing their whole family here to see fireworks and lasers light up the side of the mountain. And those are the memories that I have as a kid coming to Stone Mountain because I loved seeing the laser show. It wasn't until I was an adult that I realized what this place is, and only very recently did I begin looking into Stone Mountain's history. A dark history.
This is sacred ground for the Ku Klux Klan. On November 25th, 1915, a group of about a dozen men who were inspired by Birth of a Nation came out here to Stone Mountain. And with them was the owner of Stone Mountain, Sam Venable. And they went up to the top of Stone Mountain and they burned a cross. And that event is what helped launch the second iteration of Ku Klux Klan. And from that point on, for the remainder of the 20th century, Stone Mountain served as a rally ground for the Klan. For the next 50 years, there was an annual cross burning here every Labor Day.
I found a photo of the Klan gathering at Stone Mountain as recently as 1989. In 2015, a small group still brought Confederate flags to the mountaintop. So yeah, for some, Stone Mountain stands as a symbol of hate, a symbol of a painful history.
What those monuments are, some people think, well, you're insulted by the monuments. No, I'm terrorized by those monuments because they encourage people to be violent and to be disrespectful and to be oppressive against people of color.
Richard Rose is a longtime civil rights activist and president of Atlanta's NAACP. He wants Stone Mountain erased, and he's not alone.
No hate, no fear.
Protests over the years, some very recently,
Black Lives Matter.
have all called for the end of this Confederate shrine. But that's not an easy fight in the South. Just ask people visiting the park.
It would be almost an act of war to destroy such a beautiful piece of our ancestry, our history.
What do you say, though, to people who look at this and just see pain? They're like, these people fought to keep slavery.
They better go back and read their history.
People need to be
What do you mean?
thankful the right side won.
That response is common and can be traced to the United Daughters of the Confederacy. I asked them for an interview, they didn't reply, and the UDC's efforts to rewrite history probably deserve an entirely separate story. But for now, just know that they worked to persuade folks that the Civil War was not about slavery. The UDC also built a bunch of Confederate monuments all across the U.S. In fact, America recently had some 1,800 Confederate monuments across 31 states and D.C. The Confederacy was never more than 11 states.
You know, our argument is that one, that this isn't history, that this was part of a propaganda campaign. By getting rid of it, it's not like we're never going to have a conversation about the Civil War again. But what we're not going to have is the largest stone relief in the world that honors traitors who fought to preserve the institution of slavery.
That brings us to Georgia's state flag. Today, it looks like this. Still a nod to the original Confederate Stars and Bars flag. And in 1956, state lawmakers had added the Confederate stainless banner to Georgia's flag. In 2001, outrage led to its removal from the flag, but even that came at a price. This language got tucked into the same legislation. The memorial to the heroes of the Confederate States of America graven upon the face of Stone Mountain shall never be altered, removed, concealed, or obscured in any fashion, and shall be preserved and protected for all time. It sounds like it's going to take a much bigger public outcry than what we see now.
Absolutely. I think, and I have to tell you, one of the things I have considered a new campaign that I call No Georgia. Tell athletes, black athletes who come in UGA, pick somewhere else. Don't come to Georgia. Georgia has told you how they feel about black lives. They feel black lives don't matter.
The Atlanta NAACP is still formalizing its plans for a No Georgia boycott, but says it will encourage broad boycotts on tourism, athletics, and business in the state of Georgia until these Confederate symbols come down. And speaking of business, Marriott operates Stone Mountain's historic hotel right on Robert E. Lee Boulevard. But Marriott did not reply to our multiple requests for comment. Meantime, one of Atlanta's most famous companies, Coca-Cola, is the official beverage partner of Stone Mountain. Here's what they said about that. There is no place in our world for racism. While we do not sponsor the mountain itself, which is owned by the state of Georgia, we are the beverage provider at the park, adjacent to the mountain. We fully support efforts to open a thoughtful dialogue among local business, government, and civic leaders about the future of the carving at Stone Mountain and other monuments to ensure that everyone feels welcome and racism is rooted out of our society. And as Coca-Cola referenced, the state of Georgia owns Stone Mountain. The office of Georgia Governor Brian Kemp also did not reply to emails and calls for comment, but the governor is on record as saying he would protect Stone Mountain from, quote, the radical left, and that we should learn from the past, not attempt to rewrite it. Now, there is legislation introduced by Georgia Democrat Shelley Hutchinson to bring down any Confederate monuments or tributes on state property, but the Republican leaders of Georgia's Senate and House also did not reply to my questions about that legislation. All of their contact information can be found at georgia.gov. So, what is next for the world's largest Confederate monument?
Sandblast it, remove it. I mean, there's no way to put something that large in context, and that's the point of making these monuments so large. Their size just overwhelms whatever you might try and do to provide a little bit of context about who Jefferson Davis was and what the Civil War was fought over.
In fact, it's easy, I think. First you can change the names of the streets. They got Robert E. Lee Boulevard. You can start there. But I've talked to some masonry experts, and they believe they can cover those carvings to make it look just like the mountain it was for somewhere between $800,000 and $1 million. And I am committed for the rest of my life to fix this for the generations to come.